Hi there and welcome to Miss Daisy Patterns. Today I'm going to be making this Snuggle bunny. Now this particular bunny can be made in either plush fabric, like a fun fur fabric, or it can be made in quilting cotton. But this is the particular one I'm going to make today. It's going to be hand sewn and it's a plushy Snuggle bunny. Now the other one is actually machine sewn, so I'm not going to be doing that one. I'll put that one aside. And there went my thread, but woohoo, it's back again. Yay, thank you. Right, so to get ready for this project, what you'll need to do is you'll need to go over to the website and download this pattern. Now the pattern is free to download and I'll leave a link in the description box below. So once you've that downloaded, you just cut it out, okay, and you're going to move on to this section. Right now, next I'm going to go through all the items you need to make this. So you're going to need a paper scissors and a fabric scissors. You're going to need some regular sewing thread. And it's just hand sewing thread, some pins. You're going to need a needle and a chopstick. And then you've got your pattern, right? But before that, we also need some craft filler. Right, so I have a bag of it left to the side there. Right, now these are all the pieces that you're going to need to make the Snuggle bunny. So once you've it cut out, if you put the fabric right side to right side, pin it to it, pin your pattern to the fabric, to the material, and then just cut it out. So that's the body section ready to go. Okay, as you can see here, this is what it looks like. Now it's got quite a bit of stretch in it, and as long as you have it right side to right side, but I'll leave that for the moment. The next thing you're going to need is some felt. So it's for a heart of felt, then you're going to need the eyes, and you've got two small white sections and then two small black sections. Now the pattern pieces of these are quite small. Right, so that's them, and then you're going to have the nose. So that's the little bunny nose. Right, again, that is cut out of felt. Now the quantities for everything is in the description box below. So it's felt, plush fabric, so it's fun fur fabric, and it's also a small bit of quilting cotton. Right, and this is the actual ears cut out of the quilting cotton. So you need 2 ears in the cotton and you'll need 2 ears in the fun fur plushy fabric. Okay, right, so that's that. So that's the ears. So if you place the ears down, right side's facing you, and then the cotton side, if you place them right side to right side. And that is basically the ears set up to be hand sewn. Right. Okay, so that's your pieces all laid out and you're all ready to go. So it's not that many items you need to make this, and in fairness it's actually small quantities. Right. Now, so I'm just going to leave the patterns aside for the moment and we're going to move on to assembling everything together. So for this, you just basically need your needle and one stranded thread. It doesn't need to be doubled. And then you place a knot at the end of it. And what I'm going to do here then is I'm just going to sew the ears together. Now I like to pin. You don't have to pin if you don't want to, but I like to pin because they're 2 different types of fabric, so they have a tendency when you put them together to slip. So if you just pin along the center section, it'll keep them in position whilst you're hand sewing around the length of the ear. So what I like to do now is just to put a double stitch, a back stitch to begin, and then you keeping that 1/2 centimeter seam allowance all the way around. Now this is approximately, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then working a back stitch. You literally just sew all around the ear. Now, once you get to the end, if you put a few stitches to seal in place so that it's nice and secure, snip it off and remove the pins. And then finally, sometimes the little bit of fun fur plushy fabric has a tendency to fray a little bit. So if you just trim off any edges, now you don't have to, I just do it because I don't want the little pieces hanging out. Right, so once that's done, you can just get rid of that bit. And then we're going to be turning the ear right side out. Now to do that, I just pop in the top of the ear, and then using the base of the chopstick, I gently push it all the way through. So you just pull it off, really simple, comes through really easy. Right, so that is basically your ear 1 completed. Right, now what you're going to do is you're going to repeat that on the second ear. Right, so that's our ears done and ready to go. Okay, so we're just going to leave them aside for the moment, and we're going to move on to putting the pieces onto the actual main body. So we're going to be working on the heart, the nose and the eyes. So you only need one piece of the plush fabric for this, right side facing up, and then if you position the heart where you want it to be. And what we're going to do is we're going to use one strand of thread again with a knot at the end, and we're going to whip stitch the heart into position. And again, like with the ears, I like to just put 1 or 2 pins in place to make sure as I'm maneuvering the fabric it doesn't slip and twist. Right, so coming in from the back, grabbing through the 2 layers of fabric, the felt and the plush fabric, then whip stitching into place. Now as you're doing this, you can actually grab some of the fabric, so just take your time with it, take it slow. Right, so that is that finished. If you remove the pins, pop the needle through to the back side, and then just put a few back stitches in place to secure. Great. So that is the heart in place. Now the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to position the eyes and the nose. Now for the black felt and the white felt, what we're going to do here is, again, we're going to whip stitch these together. So we're attaching them by whip stitch appliquing them, literally one on top of the other. Right, that's perfect. So that's it, whip stitch applique together. And we're going to repeat that on the second eye. And once you've the 2 eyes and the nose ready to be put in position, we're going to place the nose first, so that'll give you the center of the face, and whip stitch this into place. So whip stitch applique. Again, exactly the same as the heart. And then continuing on with the eyes. Right, and once you have everything in place, backstitch again on the reverse side of the fabric. So that essentially then is everything that needs to be attached to the front. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to put the ears on. Now what I like to do is actually just whip stitch the top of the ears to the top of the material, just to hold them in place when I'm actually back stitching the entire item together. So the entire bunny is going to be back stitched together, but before I do that, just to hold the ears in position, I'm going to whip stitch the very top. So making sure to go through the 3 layers of fabric and line it up, and you can actually maneuver it around the curve of the head and just whip stitch the very top, going through the 3 layers of fabric Right, so that's that, and then I'll work back again over just to make sure it's very securely anchored in place. And then to finish, just one back stitch and snip it off, and then repeat that on the second ear. You'll see here, that's what it looks like. Repeat it on the second ear. Okay, and attach it right there. Okay. So that's both of the ears attached. And then if you lay them crisscrossed over each other, over the heart, and then flip it over and then get a pin and pin right the way through all the layers. That means that the ears will be anchored in place while we're sewing around the circumference of the Snuggle Bunny. Okay, so that's that sorted. Now we're going to place the fabric right side to right side with ears, everything inside the Snuggle Bunny. Now at this point, you'll see right side to right side. Okay, at this point, if you refer back to the pattern, you'll see that there's actually a space on the pattern that says leave this unsewn. That is for turning the bunny right side out. So if you see, it's right there. Now as we're sewing, we're going to start there, go all the way around, and then we'll finish at the top point, and we'll actually leave a gap. And that's the gap that we're going to turn the bunny through. Right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to pin. Now here, because again the fabric can slip and can stretch quite a bit, use as many pins as you feel necessary to hold the entire item together. Now I use quite a few pins. Now I keep them away from the edge that I'm sewing on, but I'm just making sure that it's well anchored all the way around. Right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to again use one single stranded thread. Place a knot at the end of it. The thread I'm using here is polyester gutermann thread, but I will have that in the description box below. Descriptions of everything that I'm using here today. Right, so you start where the pattern actually, the point in the pattern that I've showed you earlier. You put a back stitch into it, put the knot in, anchor a back stitch in, and then what you want to do is you want to back stitch all the way around, keeping a seam allowance of about ½ centimetre. Right, once you've got to the end, make sure you do a good few back stitches on top of each other to hold in place, and then unpin the bunny. And as you're doing this, also make sure to check that you've actually gone through all the layers with your sewing, and particularly the bunny bit at the top, that you've gone through the layers of the ears and the head to make sure they're all anchored together. Right, and then the last thing to do is we need to just pop out the ears. So if you reach inside, grab the tips of the ears and pull the bunny through. Right, so that's the Snuggle Bunny appearing. As much as you can, get it out, all the way out. And then to actually pop out the legs and the arms, what I do here is I just use the chopstick, and it's again the base of the chopstick, not pushing too hard. You're just gently guiding out the arms. But also this will show you if you've missed any parts or any bits that are like not sewn, which they should be because you've checked it all the way around. Okay, right, so the last thing basically we have to do now is stuff them. So grabbing some of your craft filler, I like to tease it out so that it doesn't go in lumps into the actual body. And I start by filling the legs first. So one section into the leg, and then I'll move on to the other leg, followed by the arms, and then into the head. So I'm filling all of the extremities with the craft filler first. Arms, legs, head. And this will take quite a bit of craft filler. And because this actual material is so stretchy, you can stuff them to whatever size you want. And now we're moving on to the head. So the last section that you do then is you fill in the center of it. So once you have the head, the arms and the legs fill in the center of it. And once you're happy that he's nice and firm and plushy, then you're ready. And then the last thing to do before he's completely finished is to just do, again, a whip stitch along the open side. And for this one, I'm using the thread doubled with a knot at the end. And then following the line that you would have sewn if it was inside, so you're keeping your 1/2 centimetre seam allowance folded inside. Just whip stitch that entire area closed. Now this particular fabric is quite forgiving, so you don't have to worry about being too neat. Right, and once you've it securely closed, right, then you just do a back stitch and pull the needle out through the seam. Again, back stitch in again, pull the needle out through the seam, and then snip off the thread. And that essentially is your Snuggle Bunny finished. Yay, Snuggle Bunnies!